On today's episode of Locked On Canadiens, Juraj Slafkovsky, second line center.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to episode 1189 of Locked On Canadiens. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day and for subscribing wherever you get your podcast. Doing that supports the show and make sure you don't miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. My name is Ian Boisvert, also known as, I almost said the active stick, and that's not true. At maybe it's Ian. And I'm joined by the active stick, the incomparable Laura Saba. Laura, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I mean, we can switch. That's fine. I can be maybe it's Ian for a while, but I fear that people will expect too many actual prepared thoughts from me, and I don't know that I can do that. And I know for sure you can't do off the cuff.
No, I have a hard time with that. I think it's mostly just about bits, right? Like the bit
Yeah.
usually for me is that I dress like a child on this show, and today I showed up with a collared shirt and a blazer for some reason.
Yeah.
So, that's just how we do things today. Big day for us here. It's Friday, which means it's mailbag day. You guys pulled through for us, so we've got a big mailbag in the second portions of our show. But we do want to start with the thing I teased off the top, which I think is really funny. The concept of Juraj Slafkovsky playing center for the Montreal Canadiens. And Laura, this comes from Arpon Basu, who posted on Blue Sky. Another face-off day for the Canadiens with Marc Bureau working with all the centers, including current wingers Alex Duhook and Kirby Dach and Juraj Slafkovsky. Laura, what are they doing?
Well, here's the thing. I wonder if Juraj Slafkovsky put his hand up for this, right? I wonder if he was just like next time that guy comes in, can I work with him too? Like kind of like an eager child, right? I don't know that the Montreal Canadiens are planning to play him at center. I don't know that should be a thing. I know that before he was drafted, he was asked if he could play center, and obviously, like every winger who wants to get drafted up at the top of the board, they all say yes, I can play both. And most of the time they cannot. That usually means to me that like a couple of times in junior they played center because there was no one else, and like that's what this is going to be if ever he plays, is because there will be nobody else. Like nobody's consciously taking Juraj Slafkovsky off the wing and putting him at center unless they're trying to get a laugh out of everybody. Like that's an April Fool's like bit.
Yeah, it's really funny. To your point about forwards who are in the draft who are listed as wingers, or they're listed as centers and in reality they're wingers.
Mm-hmm.
There are, I think, and someone will probably correct me on this, but I do not think there are many, if any, NHL teams where they have bona fide centers playing the wing on purpose. I don't think that's something NHL teams do. That's something that international teams do, like Team Canada. Desperate teams or stacked ones.
Yeah,
right. Like Team Canada at the Four Nations or at the Olympics last time or the World Cup, they, of their 12 forwards, like 10 of them are centers.
Yeah.
Because those are your best players in the National Hockey League, because in order to be a center, you have to be one of the better players in the National Hockey League. It's just a very difficult position to fill. You don't think that there's any kind of reality where Juraj Slafkovsky takes legitimate shifts as a second line center, do you?
No, I think somebody else gets kicked out of the face-off circle and he's trying to improve his chances when he's the one that takes their place.
Yeah, and it's not a bad option, right?
Yeah. I think like for me, like the idea that he chose it as opposed to the team choosing it is so endearing. I don't know why. And so I hope that that's what happened. I hope that they get out of them. That's what happened, because if not, I'm just gonna be like, Marty, what are you doing?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to the point that was made a while ago, I think by Arpon Basu, that the Canadiens don't have many left-hand shot centers. In fact, I think they have one generally. I don't remember if Lucas Kandata is a lefty or a righty, but he's not. I don't consider him as like part of the core of this team, obviously.
Poor guy. Why do you hate Lucas Kandata?
I don't. I think he's actually played really well. I do. The fourth line's been good under Lucas Kandata. I don't think about it, which is great. That's what should happen with your fourth line.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it ends up with them throwing Christian Dvorak out on the ice to take a face-off, and he's not very good at those. He's stepped up other parts of his game, but they're like square peg round holding this, because
Yeah.
if on certain spots of the ice they want a left-handed face-off guy, and there are certain situations where that's just not possible. That's why it shoves Alex Newhook into a really uncomfortable position, because he's not great at them either. So maybe it's okay, we're gonna force Nick to take that face-off on the side of the ice that he doesn't want to take it on. But if he gets tossed, it's not Kirby Dach, also a right-handed center, coming in to take this draw. We have a different option now in
Mhm.
Slafkovsky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, like that's it. Like this is very much a Martin St. Louis thing. Like he's so micro, right? He micro coaches everything. And so if this is his idea and not Juraj Slafkovsky's, like I think it's just so on brand, right? And it could just be that he happened to be around, like he hadn't gone back to the locker room and he's working with this guy now because everyone else was doing that. Like you never know like how it happened. I do hope that the insider media does ask those questions and tell us, because I think it's really entertaining. I really, you wanted to talk about it. I was glad that you wanted to talk about it because it's fun. And
Yeah.
so, people are talking about how like the Canadiens will do anything not to play Kirby Dach at center. It could be Kirby Dach that convinced Juraj Slafkovsky to do this. Like, he'd be like, I don't want to play center. Can you please, please step up for me?
Could you imagine if those drills, if one of the natural centermen lost a draw to Juraj Slafkovsky, that player would never hear the end of it.
Oh,
If
yeah.
I was Juraj Slafkovsky, it would go on my tombstone that I beat this guy at a face-off. Like that to me, that's the sorts of things that like these guys have internal competition. It's fun to them. I also
Yeah.
think, you ever have like a rough couple weeks at work and someone offers you a project that is something different and you're like, yeah, I want to go do that because I kind of hate what I'm doing right now.
Yes.
Not to say that Juraj Slafkovsky hates what he's doing right now, but he's not having the best go of it right now. He's
No.
certainly frustrated. We're
Mhm.
2 games away from him slamming the door, screaming an obscenity, and getting benched for the rest of the period. So like it's not going super great for him most of the
Yeah.
time. I kind of feel like this might be that. Like, go stop worrying about the stuff that you worry about shift in and shift out. Go
Go
learn a
learn
new
something new.
skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a different part of your brain, right? Like it's I don't know, it's something fresh. Do you think there's any value in that? Like any truth to any of that?
I mean, having experienced it myself, right? You kind of come back with a new perspective, and it doesn't seem as daunting anymore. So I do think that if that's a possibility, like I do think that it will benefit him if that's the reason behind this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's so exciting to think about the possibilities, but I think the most logical explanation is, like you said, not enough left-handed face-off, and also just people get tossed out of the face-off circle, and you need like they've identified face-offs as something that is one of their pitfalls.
Yeah. We asked for our listeners to provide some of their wild lineup decisions. Keep sending those in. I think we should do an entire segment on those next week
Yeah.
and just and get into some wild stuff.
Mhm.
Let's get weirder with this right now. If there's a forward on the Montreal Canadiens who you would trust to play defense, who is it?
Oh, that's a good one.
I
The
know the other
forward?
way. Defense to forward is we're putting
It's
either Mike
absolutely
Matheson or
Lane
Lane Hudson.
Hudson.
It's
It's
one of those
absolutely Lane
two
Hudson.
for sure.
Okay, so forward playing Jake Evans.
Yeah, probably, right?
Yeah.
He'd be a right shot defenseman, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
Montreal could use one of those right now. I
Mhm.
thought either him or Nick Suzuki, but then you don't have Nick Suzuki as your number 1 center, and that's
Yeah.
kind of a problem.
Especially since you don't have a number 2 center right now.
Yeah. I also think there would be some fun, and I don't think he'd be particularly good at it, but Michael Pezzetta would just be a lunatic.
Yeah.
Like, he would take the Ben Sherratt, Joel Edmondson, Shea Weber cross-check, school to a new heights. Like, it
Yes.
would just be he would break a stick on someone's spine every shift. I
Yes.
just feel like that's the kind of defenseman he would be.
Yeah, so if we're going for entertainment value, it's definitely someone like Pez, but if we're going for, like, who's the most reliable option, or who do we expect could work out, I think Jake Evans. And then the opposite way around, I'm, like, 100% behind Lane Hudson for that.
Yeah, it's an easy one. I kind of wonder if we'll see it one day. We saw it with Victor Mete. Remember, he used to
Yeah.
take some shifts on the fourth line.
Wasn't
I
there a
hope.
Mark Streit thing too?
Yeah. Him
Yeah.
and wait, even before that, um, Matthew Dandino was playing both forward and defense.
Oh
I think
yes.
in Montreal he was mostly a defender, but I think when he was in Detroit he was both. So and he won a Stanley Cup with those a couple of Stanley Cups I think with those teams. So if it worked for him, it could work for us. All right, we have to move on to our next segment. We're jumping into the mailbag with some thoughts on Emil Heineman. We got some feedback from folks about maybe casting him out too soon with the return of Raphael Harvey-Pinard, and we'll get into all that in just a minute. I love being in the middle of the action, whether that's taking in a concert or enjoying a night at the rink. It's just more fun being there. The place where you can go to get to the events you want to see is Game Time. We're big fans of Game Time here, thanks to their all-in pricing. This is setting in the app that you can toggle on, so Game Time tells you exactly how much you'll be paying to get in. No hidden fees. Plus, with their seat views, you know what kind of action you'll be able to see. And with their lowest price guarantee, you know you're getting the best deal for your tickets. It's for all these reasons that I went to Game Time to just secure tickets to the Habs game against the Islanders in October. And even though the Canadiens lost, I had a great night out with some friends and some great seats at an even better price. And right now, Game Time is having an exclusive zone deal for the NHL Winter Classic event at Wrigley Field. Go to the Game Time app and purchase tickets and get 10% off bleacher seating and 20 to 25% off home plate area seats. They just released the jerseys. They look sweet. You're going to want to see them up close and personal. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time. All right, we are back, and we are back with Mailbag. We have two segments of Mailbag today because we've got a lot of really, really great questions from our very, very smart listeners. You can send questions to us on Blue Sky, Locked On Canadiens there, or lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. Those are probably the best places to find us, or you can post them in our Instagram, Locked On Canadiens there, and also TikTok. If you want to respond to our videos there, we'll try to pick them up from anywhere where you guys are sending them. So we start with a question from Matt Crawford on Blue Sky. Can you take a good hard look at Heineman's stats, lots of hits, high Corsi, Fenwick, and very few giveaways, and explain why you think he should go when Raphael Harvey-Pinard returns? I feel like this question was targeted to me specifically with the giveaways thing, and they're right. This is I'm so glad that that's become my flag in the ground that I care about this stat. Before I jump into the numbers, Laura, we talked about potentially pulling Heineman from the lineup when Harvey-Pinard returns. Do you think that there's a reality where Heineman is a better option than Harvey-Pinard?
I guess we'd have to see what Harvey-Pinard plays like. He's been out for a while.
Yep.
I feel like naturally the team is going to gravitate towards picking RHP.
Yeah.
I haven't had a problem with Heineman. He's actually played better than I thought, or not better than I thought. He's been more well-rounded than I thought. He's had more facets to his play than I thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm at with Emil Heineman. And I have to say I'm quite surprised about the giveaway stuff. Just because in terms of like he hasn't been somebody who's like particularly caught my eye all that much. But he's been quietly playing well. So I think it's a little bit of a surprise, but honestly, like I do think that just based on his experience, they're going to give Raphael Harvey-Pinard the shot first, whether it's Heineman or not. Like I think what they'll do is they'll find a way to bring him into the lineup. Like that's what I mean. It's not necessarily it's Emil Heineman, but they're going to find a way to bring RHP into the lineup. He's not staying in Laval.
Yeah, I totally, and he can't. He's on a
Yeah.
conditioning stint, so he can only be there a week from the time it started.
Yeah.
I pulled, you know me, Laura. I pulled some numbers on our boy Emil Heineman because not only because that's how I operate, but I was asked, and when I'm specifically asked for it, I'm going to go do it.
Okay.
So I have Heineman stats courtesy of Natural Stat Trick, and I have them ranked among the rest of the forwards on this team. Goals, he has 3. That's good enough for 7th. So third line forward at a goal scoring rate, pretty good. Individual points percentage. So I'll explain this stat first. This is the percentage of goals for a certain player's team while that player is on the ice that player earns a point on. So if Heineman is on the ice when the Canadiens score a goal, does he have a point on that play?
Right.
And
So it's like plus minus, but useful.
yeah, that's a perfect way of looking at it. And he is 4th on the Canadiens forwards with a 71.45 individual points percentage. So if he's on the ice and something good is happening, he has a pretty good shot of being involved in it. He's not a passenger on the plays that go well for the Montreal Canadiens, which is great for a guy who's playing in his first NHL games. Giveaways, he's had 6 all year, which is the best among forwards. His giveaways per 60 is 1.93. The only forward better is Alex Newhook. So he hasn't played a lot. He averages about 10 minutes per game. So the rate stat is more important here than the actual just hard count. And the rate is still very good. He does not cough the puck up a lot. He's also laying the body at an incredible rate. 39 hits so far, 3rd on the team, only behind Slafkovsky and Anderson. And his hits per 60, 12.5, which is the top among regular players for the Montreal Canadiens. Michael Pezzetta has more, but Michael Pezzetta has played 3 games. So not really in the same ballpark as Emil Heineman. So I think there's a legitimate conversation to be had about Emil Heineman staying in the lineup when Harvey Pinard is ready. However, I think Harvey Pinard has the inside track just because of the track record there. Given
there's a chance the Canadiens pick someone else to remove from the lineup.
Yes, always true. You know, the guys that, you know, we're looking at contract wise, like Anderson or Armia, like, yes, they have big contracts. It would be kind of embarrassing to sit them. But if they're the less valuable option to put in the lineup on a given night, I think Marty will have to make that call. I also think that if Harvey Pinard comes back and he's not offering the same kind of value that Emil Heineman is bringing, they're going to put Heineman back in the lineup. So I don't think that any of this is set in stone. I think we'll get a lot of movement when all of these guys are completely healthy. All right, let's do a quick one before we head off to our third segment here. Brent Devine on Blue Sky, or Brent Devine, maybe he is Divine. I don't know. How are you feeling about the broadcast situation? Do you appreciate the variety? Do you have a clear favorite? Are you cable subscribers or streamers? So Laura, like, how do you watch Montreal Canadiens games? I think it's an important distinction between you and I because we have different ways of getting these games.
Yes. I will watch them on RDS if available on RDS. I do not like the TVA Sport broadcast under any circumstances. It's not good. I've started watching the Amazon broadcast sometimes just because they're really good.
Yeah,
They've been doing a really good job with this. The only thing that I hate about it is that they moved all these games that I'm used to having on Tuesday to Monday. So the schedule is entirely out of whack, like we have this week where we've had 4 days with no games. But that's not neither here nor there. But my absolute preference is RDS. I think they do a phenomenal job. I think, they're non-play-by-play content, like let's say, intermission content or stuff like that. Like sometimes there's a lot of Journal de Montréal style hot takeists. But you can't go wrong with Pierre Houd. You can't, like, it's so good. And I recommend people, that's what I do when people say, like, how do I improve my French, Laura? I say, watch the hockey games on RDS.
And that's something that as an American is not an option for me. ESPN Plus is how we get our games in the States. I do not have an option to watch the game in French on TVA or RDS. I do not have the option, which is a bummer because Pierre Houd is in the Hall of Fame, and there are American fans who, maybe are working on their French who would be able to enjoy that and can't. Generally speaking, the TSN broadcast is okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they really shine in the area of color commentary now that, especially now that since Poulin left for the Ottawa Senators. But like we get Mike Johnson some nights. We get Frankie Corrado. Mike Johnson's great. Frankie Corrado is one of the rising stars in the broadcast game right now. I really enjoy listening to him call games. And most of the time the intermissions are pretty decent. I could do without Carlo Koliakovo, to be honest. I think it's odd that a longtime Toronto Maple Leaf is on Montreal Canadiens broadcast. But
right. And like if you notice, like when they do the have or have not, he's so like pro Habs, it's weird.
He's overcompensating. Yeah.
He's overcompensating.
He's trying to endear himself to the audience, right? I think that's what, like, he
it's
can't
not working. it looks weird to us. Like it comes off weird.
Yeah. I don't disagree. And the TSN broadcast is great because, third mention of the day, but Arpon Basu does his hits in the second intermission some nights, and those are always filled with good information. So it's, they play the hits over at TSN. All right, we're going to jump into our final segment here. We've got some more mailbag questions, including how we think the Canadiens can be a success for the rest of the season. And we'll get into that in just a minute. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, home stretch, Laura. Then we're off to the weekend where the Montreal Canadiens have a date with the Vegas Golden Knights.
Oh, and I'm going to be on Game Over.
And you will be on Game Over. Mrs. Saturday Night makes her return to the Game Over stage.
Yes, with Kay. I'm so excited.
Be there. We will be tweeting, sharing that link out when we have it Saturday night. So folks, go join. Throw some Locked On Canadiens lore into the chat. I'm pretty sure that'll be nice. All right, let's jump into some other questions here. Nathaniel Hers asks, what's up with Newhook and what can be done? Very open-ended question on Alex Newhook. You kick us off.
What's up with Newhook? I don't know.
Great answer. I'm right there with you. I have no idea what's going on in his life.
I have no idea. Does he talk? How often does he talk to his family? Does he have a spouse? I have no idea. What's up with Newhook is that he's miserable because he is being played in a situation where he is not at his best. When we know and we have seen that a different position for him is optimal and he thrives. So like when you take that away from him, not only is he not able to thrive, he's also unhappy about it. So it's showing in everything that he does on the ice.
Yeah, no, I agree. I also think he's kind of having a hard time figuring out what his role on this team is, right? I think that's a lot of it. He seems misplaced in a lot of places. So that's something that either the coaching staff needs to make clearer to him. He needs to carve out a role for himself. It's been an issue since he got here. It's kind of difficult to tell what kind of player this is or what this player does. What do you do here? Like that's important to define. So yeah, I think that's what is happening and what can be done with Alex Newhook. Andrew G asks, since the 93 Stanley Cup, the Habs have basically been a configuration of 3 kids in a trench coat. With that in mind, who is your favorite some guy from the last 30 years? So who's your favorite just dude that you remember played for this team?
Okay, he's not just a dude though. Like for me, like Richard Zednik was the team for a while.
Yeah.
You remember him?
Yeah, Dickie Z rules. That's awesome.
He's not a some guy though. Like, so if I had to pick a some guy, it would be maybe Tom Kostopoulos.
That's another great one. He was a trivia question on here a few weeks ago about how he, played a bunch of games at like the top 3 levels in North American hockey, which is just really difficult to do. Yeah, it's a great guy. I remember, I don't know if I told this story, but I was playing youth baseball at the time and he scored the overtime winner against Philly in one of those playoff games. And the next day I was wearing 6. That's the number I picked, was because of Tom Kostopoulos. So that was a fun one. As far as just like favorite guy, I don't know that we talk about Douglas Murray all the time. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that he's like favorite in the sense that we loved the experience. He's certainly my favorite to remember, especially since when we had Mike Comito on to talk about Habs 365, which you should be checking out if you haven't already. And you should check out our interview with him on YouTube. Yes. Go find it. It's he's a really great guest. The fact that he had a page in the book to talk about Douglas Murray is like, it's like he tapped into our hive mind and wrote this book. Yeah. So if you're a Canadian sicko like us, you need to go check out that book because Douglas Murray is my answer here. All right, let's jump to Kyle Roberts. How do you feel about the tank mentality? Personally, I'd rather see the team go for the playoffs and miss than adopt a loser mentality and end up like the Leafs, perennial first-round exits. Even if it means we miss out on the top pick, I don't want them to aim to lose. I want them to be complete. If they don't make the playoffs, then so be it. I think the aim should be the bottom. Should never be the bottom. Sorry. Especially since our recruitment team has shown that they can find special players at 21st overall, like Michael Hage or Lane Hudson or Jacob Fowler, to name a few. Where are you at on Tank Nation right now? I feel like it's died off quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, I feel like there was a period of time, Ian, and it seems so long ago, even though it was probably like a month or so, when we talked about how making the playoffs for this team would be a waste of time because they just get swept in 4 games and everybody got mad at us. Everybody, right? So I think it's just like you can't convince elite hockey players to tank. You cannot convince a coach like Marty to tank.
No.
Like it's not like we don't believe in that. We believe in doing everything you possibly can to win. And we believe also not in being losers like the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like I think not being the Toronto Maple Leafs is kind of at this moment, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Also, can I just point out that whenever one of the Roberts brothers emails us, like they like mention not just us, but like the other brothers too.
Yeah, they're communicating with each other through us.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe that they haven't spoken to each other in years, and like this is how they're mediating their relationships as a family. To me, that's
Is
the
by
funniest
emailing
outcome.
us.
Yeah. We are we're gonna bring this family back together, Laura. I
Yeah.
promise.
Also, we haven't heard from, I want to say it's Nicholas, if I'm not mistaken. We haven't heard from you. So email us, please.
Yeah, blink twice if you're okay.
Don't let your brothers get the last word.
Moving on, Francis El Tardif on Blue Sky asks, what needs to happen until the end of the season for it to be successful, in your opinion? What does a good Montreal Canadiens season look like between now and when the season ends and the first or second week of April?
Nobody yell at me, but I don't want them to be picking in the top 10.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I
want them to pick in the
Yeah.
top 10, but I don't want the end result of this in the standings wise to be picking in the top 10, because that means they would have taken very few steps forward. I want to see significant jump. And we know they're not going to make the playoffs, but a significant jump would be like, being in the no man's land where you don't draft as well, but you also never made the playoffs.
I agree with you. Although I think I have a secret that I'd like to share with everybody. If the Canadiens are picking, let's say, not in the top 3, but in the top 10, I don't think they're picking, if you understand what I mean. I think they're moving that for immediate help because it's time. Like it will be, they cannot, if they're picking 5, they cannot wait another 2 years for a 5 to show up and be a rookie and learning. Like we need to be past that. That's why I think the tanking aspect of this needs to be done, because the guys that are here and the guys who will be here within a year or two, we got to move. Like we cannot just sit on this forever, or you become the old Oilers or the Buffalo Sabres, these teams that were bad forever. And the Sabres are still bad. Like it's not like they've ever dug their way out of it. So that to me would be a success. Again, like if they're a little higher than 5th in the draft, like 10, 11, 12, somewhere in that range, and I think they'll flip it anyway for immediate help. I think that's successful to me. Last question of the day from David Hendon. It's been a while, but listening to the podcast today made me wonder if the NHL should consider a regulation win more than an overtime win. Have it work the same way per se as soccer, for when you get 3 points, and if you are tied going into overtime, the 3 points are divided for 2 points for a win and 1 for a loss. In soccer, it's 3 points for a win and 1 each for a tie, but hockey has no ties. What do you think? I think the PWHL already does this, right? The women's league.
Yeah.
They give 3 for a regulation win, and then they break it down the same way, right?
Right. And so like there is a little bit of a de-emphasis on overtime or shootout wins, like in terms of tiebreakers only, right? So the only time that ever comes into play is when a team finishes the exact same with the exact same totals, et cetera, exact same positioning, and they need a tiebreaker. They will look at regular or overtime wins, and then so shootouts matter less. But I think that bring back those 3 points, right? Or whatever it was that we used to do before. It was 2 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, or was it? I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
Like 2005 lockout. I honestly cannot remember. I'm just old.
But I'm right there with you. Like I think that it's time. These the regulation overtime Tiebreakers are a half measure, and the NHL is the king of half measures in the sporting world. So it's time for that change, to de-emphasize the shootout and overtime, because 3-on-3 overtime has become a gimmick in its own right. So it's time. All right, let's hit our trivia and then head out of here, huh? Yesterday's question, we were talking about the 2018 Montreal Canadiens. So I said, speaking of the trades of 2018, on June 30th, 2018, the Canadiens traded Simon Bork for a package involving this current Montreal Canadien. Who was I talking about? Laura, you have the answer, and so did Benji Girton on YouTube.
It was Yoel Armia, which I'm ashamed to say I did not get until one of the commenters, it was Benji, I guess, was the one who, I was like, I cannot believe I did not get that. How many other players are there on this team that used to play for Winnipeg?
Yeah, exactly. And it was the Steve Mason buyout trade. They got an asset in Armia to take on Steve Mason's contract and buy it out. So that was pretty tidy work by Marc Bureau. I will give him his flowers when he needs it. However, the contract he signed Armia to right before getting fired was bad. Okay, moving on to today's question. On Thursday, Pavel Datsyuk signed a one-day contract with the Detroit Red Wings to retire a Red Wing. His first goal against the Montreal Canadiens was on October 17th, 2002. Wild to think he was playing that long ago. Who was in net for the Montreal Canadiens when he scored his first goal against Montreal? I'll give you the date again. It was October 17th, 2002. That was his first goal against the Habs. Who was in net for the Montreal Canadiens? If you have the answer, feel free to put it in YouTube, email it to us, let us know. We will shout out whoever gets it right first. The speed is important here, so make sure you're listening as soon in the day as you can. Make us your first listen. And that's going to do it for us today on Locked On Canadiens. We'd like to thank you once again for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey, become a fantasy hockey expert, and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find us. We are making the jump to Blue Sky. We're on Blue Sky. Locked On Canadiens there. Laura is the active stick. I am Maybe It's Ian. You will find us in most new places as Locked On Canadiens on TikTok and Instagram. You can email us at lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. Support my Movember Foundation fundraiser. I have the links posted out. Should be in the description as well. So if you can give, that would mean a lot to me. All right, guys, enjoy the game this weekend. We will be back on Monday, and we will see you later.